Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer, and we're boring, Dave, because we're inside and we don't have an Olympic gold medal. Just
that saying. Is true. Welcome back, Meagan Duhamel. Meagan, welcome back to This and That.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So we are going to discuss all things that happened at the Autumn Classic, the US Classic, and a little bit of what happened at the Junior Grand Prix in Russia this weekend. Lots going on. So if you're new here, please subscribe below, smash that like button. And Meagan, it was clear that you were commentating not together and from home, and there was a clear structure and rhythm to the commentary. And I just have to say, Meagan, your thoughts.
and then click, because now we're turning on the on that sound. Yeah, exactly.
Turn my mic on. Well, like, did we really see some classic skating at all the classics, or?
Well,
because I'm not too sure there was much classic skating. A lot of rough skating for September in the year of the Olympics. Let's just say.
My first
As
question.
Kevin Reynolds reminded us with each performance, it is new, it is early in the season.
But let's talk about that, Dave. What does that mean? So there's early in the season, and we always try to give the benefit of the doubt with like clunky new programs or something that hasn't gelled yet. But also in like an Olympic season, I know everything's a little weird. Meagan, from your standpoint, like where were you around this time in 2017 going into 2018?
You know what? We actually had like our worst competition in probably 6 years at the Autumn Classic free skate. Very similar to Vanessa and Eric's performance, in which I fell in both jumps and both throws. It was pretty disastrous, but we had one of our career best short programs.
Okay.
So you could see that the training was there. We just didn't have the mileage on the free skate, which we had on the short. So when you see a skater that puts out a really great short program at this time of year, and the long program's a little bit like under par, that's pretty normal. That's pretty normal. The long program takes longer to get comfortable. And there's also just more elements in it. So obviously there's more risk. But when you see skaters show up and underperform in both programs, maybe there's some other assessments that need to be done, because you're clearly not where you want to be months before the Olympics.
Yeah, because some really nice moments, like for instance, Ted, who does a lovely job of finding something nice to say about everyone, will say like, well, it's early in the season, so maybe that's why they have no charisma or something. And you're like, I don't think the time of the season is what's at fault here, but okay.
Yeah. I think that the Canadian skaters in particular, they haven't been competing for like a live panel of judges in a year and a half, at least, maybe 2 years for some of them, or almost 2 years. So this is different for a lot of the skaters, at least in Canada. But even if that's the case, that just gave them extra time to train and get ready and do simulations. So I don't think that's a valid excuse to be used.
One thing I wanted to ask you is about the mental component of the Olympic season, because I remember for watching you and Eric, there was every other season that was usually pretty normal. You know, you might have a miss or here and there, but I remember many early summer competitions or things where you did almost clean longs, right?
Yeah.
But then the Olympic season always seemed like it was a little bit, for whatever reason, where you were in your careers and your lives, 2013, 2014, the beginning of the season, rough. And, you mentioned the Autumn Classic. Is it mentally, do you feel it all summer? Is it something that you felt when you go out there to do that long program for you? Like, when does the Olympic season start to feel different when you're going into the beginning of the competition?
Well, so like the fall of 2013, which was the pre-Olympic, like the Olympic season for Sochi, we had just won our first world medal. So we were in such a different headspace. Like, oh my gosh, not only can we qualify for our first Olympics, we can win a medal. So our focus was really shifted. We took, which we saw later, not the best decisions with our programs, trying to experiment. The Olympic year is not the year to really experiment too much. And we learned that afterwards. We tried, it failed. In 2017, the fall, it was a little bit different. We were coming from a pretty disastrous World Championships, our worst World Championship result since we started skating together, and trying to like rebuild ourselves back into the team that we thought we were, in Boston and in Shanghai when we won our world titles. We had at that season, we had decided that we were going back to an old free skate for the Olympics. We thought Muse was the right free skate because with Muse, we were undefeated. Nobody ever beat us with that free skate. We skated it clean almost every time. I remember just 1 or 2 competitions with mistakes. So we thought that was the right decision on the surface, but then once we started competing it, we realized that we had outgrown that program, the music, the program, the style. It wasn't us anymore. And unfortunately, we had to learn that in the middle of an Olympic season. But still, with that program, we won Skate Canada against Aliona and Bruno. So it wasn't, that far off the radar of what we could do. But that was kind of what we saw with Autumn Classic was like, okay, we need to revisit the program. We need to rearrange things. We put the quad in the second half at the beginning of the season because I was like, why not? I can do it. Why wouldn't we? And then after trying it for a couple months and doing it in one competition terribly, I was like, okay, maybe that was the bad decision. We keep the throw quad earlier when I have fresh legs. But I was always trying to do something different. So it didn't work. And that was why we had that really bad performance at Autumn Classic. But you always feel the pressure of an Olympic season. It starts a little bit earlier because there's people talking about it. And depending on where you're at in your career, it affects you really on a different scale.
So obviously the fact that you were providing commentary for this competition, Eric is competing with Vanessa, and Kevin asked for your thoughts, and it felt like a pregnant pause before you went in. I don't know if you were trying to be diplomatic or like thinking extra hard about what you were going to say. What was the experience like for you watching this and knowing they're a new team and everything about it?
I was warned about the question beforehand. So like I had time to like prepare an answer. Like I wanted to kind of be funny by saying like I never expected to be commentating on Eric, like try to like, lighten the mood a little bit, but it was super weird. Like obviously anybody in this position would be uncomfortable. But once they were skating, I just tried to treat it like every other team, analyze it the way that I would analyze any skating program that I watched, whether it was my own or somebody else's. I analyzed programs the same. So as awkward as it was at the beginning for the free skate, it felt kind of natural.
You did a great job, I thought, because you were talking about watch for this. Eric does this really well. They're doing this well. They're struggling with this. Like,
Very
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm like most comfortable. So I always try to keep my points a little bit more to the technical side, unless there's something like glaringly evident with the program, and always trying not to make too much comments about the music for anybody, because everybody has so much different opinions with music. Like music and costumes everybody's just going to have different views on it. So I feel like stating my opinion on it sometimes just starts a war because, I see somebody's costume, like, that's beautiful. And then my husband's sitting next to me and he's like, that's awful. They need to change their costume. And we're both involved in skating and we see it so differently. So sometimes, it's best to stay away from those type of comments.
Well, and as the expert, I have to say, like, I so appreciate when you point out something like in a lift, why this lift is so effective, because that's the thing I want help understanding. I have eyes and ears. I can know if I thought a program was lovely or if it had high energy. So when some of that commentary comes from other commentators, like, I was able to witness that myself. I'm curious if you can scratch the surface and help me appreciate how this is going to be scored or how it is.
You saw them fall. You don't need the commentator to say, oh, they fell there on their side by side.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard though. You have such a short amount of time. Like I had so much things I wanted to say and I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
I think for Vanessa and Eric, thinking about it and watching them, and obviously everyone's been talking about it the last couple of days, they were the highlight of discussion. This is a team that had a lot of buzz. I know the last time we talked about them, Vanessa might have had a little, Instagram story of Mariah Carey or something, but look, they came in with a new announcement with a lot of buzz. It had photos and an interview, and everyone was it was a big story. Watching that, we were presented that they were going to be this artistic team. We saw, the video of them at the ISU. There was certainly a lot of marketing around this team. I do feel that their lines match, but not their skating skills. I think Eric and Vanessa have very different skating skill quality. And the other thing that I noticed is that when you and Eric skated together, your personalities were like a yin and a yang, right? On the ice, we're like, you brought the high energy and he brought more of a lyrical thing. And like, as much as people would sometimes criticize it because you're shorter, he's taller, they both have, at least in this partnership, I didn't feel like there was any sort of like chemistry where one was, you know, warmer and cooler and energy wise. And they both were like on the cooler energy, wearing darker colors, like moody, more vacant music, similar in both programs. They have a new short program. I don't know that it was necessarily more effective than the last one. I feel confused a little bit in what their identity is and what they have to say. I thought that Eric's actual skating was quite good, but I'm confused if they have an interpersonal connection or I don't know. I was left just wondering where this is going at a certain point. Yeah. I could see them landing their jumps, but beyond maybe 7th, 8th in the world, I don't know where this is going and the motivation for coming back. I don't know.
Well, with every new team, there's a little bit of a disconnect. So like this is normal. It's just new teams don't usually arrive the year of the Olympics expecting to make an Olympic team and, you know, to have results. Yeah. I think that something that when they started skating together, the comments I read, the quotes I read from Eric and Vanessa, where they wanted to be this innovative team. They wanted to look different and do different things. But I just don't see an attempt to be innovative. I think they are both capable of much more intricate, complex transitions and choreography. I know that they are both capable of that. What made Vanessa and Morgan so innovative and unique was their creative lifts, their transitions, all these little tricks. And what made Eric and I so innovative was our dynamic together and the extra tricks that we did that other teams didn't do. Whereas their music choices are not innovative. There's no innovative choreography. It's very flat. Which if they didn't come out of the gate saying we want to be this innovative team, I probably wouldn't notice it as much. But the fact that they marketed themselves as that, it's a little bit confusing as like, well, where's the innovation you talked about? You told us about this innovation and now it's not there. And I think that, you know, especially in this field, and I think when they're up against the Russians, the Chinese, the American teams, Kirsten and Mike, it's going to be more noticeable the lack of choreography and transitions in their program. They didn't have exits out of lifts. Like they just put down the last lift. There was no exit. There's no entrances into the throws, out of the throws. You know, these are all things that a lot of their competitors that they're hoping to beat are doing.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, I really think it was a mistake. And I don't know the strategy or the why behind it. But I think for Kirsten and Michael, and I know Evelyn and Trent were apparently going to do this competition, then didn't. I think it would have been a great opportunity for those two teams to come out early. Now, those teams were openly upset by Vanessa and Eric coming back, and you have to wonder, did they stay in their feelings too long, you know, before they got down to business? Because if you think about it logically, this is a new team. You talk about how, you know, they're new, yet they want to be innovative. It's a lot to, you know, that's a lot to accomplish in an Olympic season, your first season together, learning to compete together, learning to skate together, all of this stuff. It would have been really great for those two teams to come out and challenge because they could have really outscored them. And
like big time and made a huge statement. And I agree that I think that's what should have happened. I'm told that at the national team camp, Trent and Evelyn were the standout team. They had the best skates by far. So you have to wonder why they would not have wanted to go against Eric and Vanessa at an event like this and just stake their claim right away. Mm-hmm. I myself as a competitor would have jumped on that chance. Yeah. And it's disappointing that the other Canadian teams didn't, for whatever reason they have. They wouldn't have even needed to skate all that well to come out ahead.
But the Paris event was one that I watched not in real time, but went back and watched the videos for. So I checked the scores first. And even though another Canadian team was not the one to make the statement, the Japanese team made a big statement by like having a massive difference between first and second place. Like this was not a close call. This was like,
and that was with not even a clean long program. She did a double sow and some really messy lifts. Yeah.
And I think that they're a fun and exciting, talented team. They were top 10 at Worlds, right? I can't recall off.
Yeah, they were 10.
10.
They were sixth in the short.
We got the 10th place team in the world that just clobbered you a little bit in the scores.
Yeah.
So it just sort of, to me, is probably not the start they were looking for.
Well, I look at this in a couple of ways. Remember, Eric did coach that team a bit, the Japanese team. Another interesting thing about it is that they go to Skate America next. And the Japanese didn't just put, Vanessa and Eric and the teams at Autumn Classic on notice because they are coming off of a top 10 finish at Worlds. They did very well here. You have to look at, it's kind of an open field in terms of who's going to get that team bronze medal. And I think a lot of people look to Japan and look at, the missing links because they're so strong, in the men's event. If they can really solidify which lady they're going to send or ladies they're going to send for that event, they have a great shot there.
But it doesn't even matter what ladies they send. Whoever they send will be significantly higher in the standings than the Canadian ladies.
Yeah. And you look at, okay, the pair team, that gives them a third discipline, right? So if they can this team can do another good short program, like they were top 6 at Worlds, you start to realize, okay, there were 3 Russian teams at Worlds, so you take 2 out, that makes them 4th, and you play all the stuff there, how many of the Chinese teams were ahead. All of a sudden, Japan could be in it for a team bronze medal. That gives this team a lot of momentum and a lot of...
When this team started skating together, that was the goal.
Mhm.
That was the goal, is to get that Olympic bronze medal. I don't think they expected to be as good as they are. I don't think they even realize yet that they're that good. Like there's a little bit naive, and it's really endearing, of course, for everybody. I think that's part of what makes them an attractive team. But I do see this team winning medals like the Grand Prix. I see this team, closing the gap on those 3 Russians and 2 Chinese teams and being right there with the Americans and with Kirsten Michael, perhaps higher than those teams. And the thing is with these skaters, and I said this in the commentary, they were at World Team Trophy after Worlds and they did very well. They scored 130 at World Team Trophy in the free skate, and we kind of forget about that. Like they built some momentum there already, and then they couldn't come back to Canada. So they trained all summer alone doing FaceTime lessons. And then they finally went into the States. They trained in Boston for a couple of weeks, I think maybe a month or 6 weeks, before they came to Canada only last week. And this is how prepared they were with virtual training by themselves. So this is a team that works hard, they're dedicated, and they listen. They grasp everything you tell them. I told her to put hairspray in her hair after the short because her hair was kind of flying all over and it was looking a bit sloppy. And then for the free skate, she had hairspray in and she was like, did it look better? Did it look better? Like they listen to everything you say and they will just take it and run with it. So I think the opportunities for a team like that, it's endless because they're grasping everything and they want to be better.
We do notice, their skating skills, the knee bend that the Japanese skaters have. We haven't seen that in the pair discipline, as of yet. It's refreshing. I think it makes them stand out and it matches their music. I know they're using the Marissa and Mervyn classic "Woman on the Land." I don't, a Julie Marcotte special, but
that was pretty good.
Maybe not my favorite, but iconic. And I'm interested to see how they're going to do. They're an easy team to get behind because all of their elements are done with quality, and it sneaks up on you, throughout the program where all of a sudden you're like, wow, midway through.
And they have buckets of transitions. Everything is so musical. There's some odds and ends, they get sloppy, they lose their unison. She messed up the beginning choreography and forgot her ending position at Autumn Classic, all these little things. But I just find it so remarkable. 3 years ago, she was scoring 70 something and she was second last at Junior Worlds. And I mean, he was last at every Worlds and Olympics he went to with his 2 other partners. But Bruno, my husband Bruno, he always said, I don't understand Ryuichi. He's so good. Why is he not better than he is? Bruno said it for years. He was like, this guy is so good. He was an amazing single skater. He does all his triples, including triple axel, beautiful presentation. And we just didn't see it in Paris for a long time. So it's so nice for him that now it's coming to life.
Yeah, and I talked to Bruno. He said that they do about 4 longs a week. They're doing shorts every day. They manage their lift with an old shoulder.
I used to take her running at 6:30 in the morning for a full year when she needed to get in top shape. I went to her house once a week. We went for a run at 6:30. Then she would go get changed, eat breakfast, and go to skate and do a long program. Yeah,
all right.
The team that want it.
Yeah. So what did you think? Okay, there are a couple of technical things about pairs this season. I'm so excited because listening to the commentary, I had to laugh because, you know, you were always known for doing things that were for the points. Now there's this new transition into the side-by-side triple toes that I frankly hate because I think
I hate it.
it is awful. It looks like so classic IJS for the points. I don't think that it should really be rewarded for the grades of execution just with how it looks, where you do it from two different entrances. What is your take on this, Megan? I think it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's not nice. Even when it's landed, I would probably still give it a negative grade of execution because there's no unison. And there's a break. Like, it's not fluid.
It's about unison. You know?
And I just know I'm a little bit confused about the appeal to some people. Like, why do these people doing it think it works? We're not seeing landed jumps with it, so I don't think it's working. I think it's having the reverse effect. I did something similar to that with like my old partner. So like, we were bad, nobody cared about us, but I skated with this guy Craig, and we did I stayed backwards and he did his mohawk, but it happened so fast at the last second that even when I would watch the video, I'm like, oh yeah, we had different takeoffs, but it happened so quickly. The ones that I'm seeing right now, not that it was like, it still wasn't nice then, but the ones I'm seeing now that are like, it's so drawn out and it's so clunky and then the jumps aren't landed, and yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, the other one, you know,
it's like somebody doing a mohawk into their sow and somebody doing a 3-turn and doing it side by side.
Yeah.
Not gonna match.
Are you a sow? Do you prefer a mohawk from a sow or a 3-turn?
Well, it depended on how my sow was going. So in 2013, I like lost my triple sow because I had like mental issues. So then we replaced it with the triple toe. Then when I hurt my foot and I couldn't do a triple toe anymore, I went back to the sow, but I would go back and forth between entries depending on how I felt.
Yeah. I've had to switch things from mohawk to a 3-turn. It's a process. Yeah, it's a.
I did a forward 3-turn at the end of the day into my sow.
So I want to ask you a little bit about also the forward outside death spiral position is something I didn't like it when Chen and Zhao did it. Again, it's something that I think is so token for the points, and I just don't think it's pleasing for the naked eye. You know, the guy just.
Well, it depends. Like we saw Deanna do it, and like before we even speak about that, like this is remarkably difficult. I have seen a handful of pair girls hold a forward outside death spiral edge. Mervin's previous partner, Narumi Takahashi, is one of them. Zhui Shen is one of them. Deanna and a girl that skates in Germany now, Alyssa Efimova. She skates with Ruben in Germany now. She's a former Russian skater. She has a gorgeous one because she doesn't hold her leg. And I think that it's when the girls hold their leg, it kind of creates this broken position. And I don't know if you remember, but like back in 2010, it was a feature. If the girl held their leg, it gave you a point, like extra features. So you have to do what the rules say, but that's not part of the rules anymore. So if they're doing that, it's purely to either help them sustain that edge or they think it looks nice. But as much as I admire the forward outside death spiral, and I'm like, hats off to all of you that can do it, because I have tried and I just fall the second I get on that forward outside edge. I admire that they can do it. I just wish that it was done in the classical death spiral position.
What'd you make of Deanna here? I mean, we've seen, you know, them growing over the last couple of seasons, Deanna and Max. How did you think about their performance?
I thought their free skate was greatly underscored. I personally probably would have had them second in the free skate on the day. I like their program. I saw some comments about people complaining about the music. That's music I like. I liked it. I like the costuming. I think they had a lot of intricate choreography here and there, like little pieces of choreography that were pretty nice. Obviously, they had the major errors on the jumps, but other than that, I thought the performance came across really smooth, great lifts, decent, pretty nice, decent twist. And I probably would have had them second in the free skate on the day. It wouldn't have changed the overall result. They probably still would have been fourth. But yeah, I thought they were pretty good, but I thought they were great at the Quebec summer competition when they did get 120 points in the free skate.
One thing that I notice about their programs is that they put in all the transitions and all the exits and all, you know, the ending with the turning, you know, knee slide lunge action. And sometimes it almost looks like the lift exits are too hard. I know that they're going for difficult features, but I almost think, you know, pairs about pictures and bigness and things. I think that would be just an opportunity to clean it up a little bit, to just let them shine, because I think that they do have good overall components compared to the other team, and really good musicality, I think, especially.
I think so too. I think they're
Good
very
job.
undervalued, and I'm a little bit disappointed in Skate Canada's decision not to send them to the Grand Prix. They've twice now, by a large margin, beat the Canadian team that was assigned. So, and I love Lorianne and Thierry who are going. I just think that the results are proving which team probably should have been going. But I think that the difficult exits are fine for them. I just think that they need to dedicate some time to having some speed and flow. I think they can have this speed and the flow with the difficulty. I believe they both have the ability to do that. I have no idea how much time they spend working on that though.
Now, Jonathan, what do you think about Ashley and Tim, where they are right now? Obviously,
Oh God, Dave.
Correction. Timothy. He goes by Timothy now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it like one is not supposed to call him Tim?
It's okay.
Bruno
Tim
told
is
me
they.
he was told at Autumn Classic to please refer to him to they as Timothy. I'm
Yes.
learning. I'm
Timothy is they.
learning. I'm
Yeah.
trying. Timothy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, this is a hot spot moment. So obviously Ashley was struggling in a major way. And there was not much commentary sort of going into it, whether they were playing this COVID card and really talking about it, or when she first announced from the hospital bed and all this sort of stuff that she had COVID, and I felt like we were a part of that story. Coming into this, I didn't understand if she was going to do a post that was like, we're trying, but I don't know what we're going to get, or I don't know if they've been training. Obviously, it didn't go great, but I don't understand the effects of COVID. I don't know if this was the effect of that happening, but obviously this was not the outing they wanted. And again, I would have been fine with Deanna getting that bronze instead of them. I think this was a real tough go. And I don't know, aside from the COVID infection, if they had been training as normal, I don't know how Cranberry was going to go for them either. That was going to be a very revealing event had they been able to compete, because I think the message is pretty clear in the United States how this is going.
Well, I don't know if it's super clear in the US. I know that there's just a lot of, confusion and murmurings and stuff about what did happen with Jessica and Brian. Were we going to hear about what happened with Jessica and Brian, why they were not in the ISP and not in the Grand Prix, now they're at the TBD and Skate America, and maybe we're never going to hear the reason, and we're just gonna, right, and move on. But I do think that it continues to be a question mark. And I thought going into this season, we had watched obviously them practice. Ashley and Timothy were doing full programs late May, early June. They went to a Nina Mosier camp, and they were really, really prepared, had a good short at Champs Camp, but obviously putting a long together and doing that is very different. To me, there looked to be a lack of confidence maybe, and COVID would take you out of that training and take you out of not only your stamina, but now you're rebuilding. So, and plus Olympic season nerves for a team that hasn't gone to the Olympics. I just wonder if there's a lot more going on. They didn't have their usual spark,
Well, and it's a double whammy because as I understand it, COVID messes with your stamina, plus then the time away from the ice is going to mess with her stamina. But it was interesting to me, I can't say that I was noticing a lack of stamina, as just her inability to land things. I don't know if those are directly related. Like, I thought maybe she would be really winded at the end of the long or something. But instead, what I seemed to get more was just maybe she hadn't been training the jumps in that time or something.
I didn't think their short was that bad. Like 59 seemed just a little low for what they did. I obviously watching it on a camera is not the same. Like when you watch it online, it's not the same as seeing something in person. I was told that they were very slow in person. I didn't see that online. But when their 59 came up, I was like, oh, did their lift not count? Like did a major element not count? I thought that was just a little bit low. I thought the program was quite intricate. I liked the choreography. I thought that they're always paying attention to details. So the short program score was a little bit surprising to me. The free skate, yeah, it looked like she just wasn't quite there. I'm not sure where she was or where she felt her legs were. But Ashley and Timothy are always a team that I always find myself like rooting for. And I don't personally know either of them. Like I've never even met Timothy. I don't know either of them. But like for some reason, I always find myself like egging them on and hoping that they do well and hoping that they get that world team or the Olympic team. And they're just very likable to me. I really like their skating. I really like their attention to detail. I love their commanding presence on the ice. It always seems to me that even when the jumps and the throws falter, the performance doesn't normally take a hit. Like they still continue on with energy throughout the footwork sequence and everything. So a disappointing skate for them for whatever reasons that we don't know. And I hope they're able to put that behind them.
So if you're looking at this, for both of you, the US, I think it's safe to say at this point, unless something changes, there's an injury, I don't know, the world turns upside down. Alexa and Brandon seem to have a solid shot at getting one of the Olympic spots, which to me says that the second spot is most likely between Jessica and Brian and Ashley and Timothy. Both teams issues with the side-by-side jumps, fair to say. You start to pull it apart. Ashley and Timothy, more experience. Problem with the throw Lutz, typically. Do you go for the team that has the better lifts? Because that's the surefire way. Like, who are you giving the edge to? You know, Jessica and Brian, I think maybe the strongest lifts in the field.
I think it really depends on like what the heck happened with them, withdrawing from Worlds and all this business, and how much did that affect anything within the USFSA? Because I think like if you're really like comparing apples to oranges and they're just neck and neck and neck, it comes down to what happened. Ashley and Tim showed up at Worlds. Ashley and Tim were given their Grand Prix assignments. I don't know. I feel like that has nothing to do with the skating and it really shouldn't have much to do with the results. But both teams will be between 8th to 12th at the Olympics. You know, they're both looking at about the same result. You start to look at those things.
Well, and it's interesting because it's never seemed like the international judging panel is excited to go with Ashley and Timothy. They don't seem to necessarily get behind them, but they have been in front of the international panel so much longer. Yeah. I just don't see Brian and Jessica getting any favors from a non-US judge. I think a non-US judge may grade the PCS for Ashley and Timothy higher, just based on
depending on how they skate. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to know without.
Brian did come third in the free skate at 4 continents in 2020. Just as like the world was shutting down. That was their last appearance with like at big international panels. So
but because they haven't been to Worlds. Like we're talking, know, with the 2020.
They missed Worlds. So
it's hard to know with those panels.
Yeah.
In terms of the dance event at Autumn Classic,
wait, really quick, Dave, and I'm sorry to just hijack it. Do you mind if I sidestep? Because I just want to give a shout out to the junior Grand Prix that happened, the 2 pairs events that were first and second. That first Russian pair with the twist that I was like higher than anybody else's now. It was absolutely incredible. And the second place Russian team with their triple Lutz, Euler, triple Salchow side-by-side element.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the future's looking fine in Russian pairs. Okay, that was
just
my takeaway. No, they got that too. Okay, great.
I have to say the dance event here, it was so interesting that the Autumn Classic and the US Classic were happening at the same time. It felt like they should have just been one competition. And it was so funny because there were so many callers and judges from Canada at the US Classic. And I have to wonder if the US reciprocated and sent judges and callers to Canada. It felt like there was a virtual competition going on between Piper and Paul and Hubbell and Donohue. Even though they were not at the same event, everyone was comparing scores in the audience to see.
I know who won my score. I'm curious who I'm curious who you guys.
Share your insight. Share your
Well, I'm intrigued because it's exactly like you're saying, Dave. I felt like we were watching a real head-to-head match, even though they weren't happening on the same ice surface. And what was interesting is that sort of the strategy I felt for the free dance was also similar. So in some ways, it felt like apples to apples. And hashtag Team Canada.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting to me. Hubbell and Donohue did something that they did during, I didn't love their music edit 2 years ago when they
wait, who are we talking about?
Hubbell and Donohue, the Star is Born program. I didn't love it. One thing that I noticed in the Janet Jackson program is that they sometimes do sideways movements when they're skating forwards. And it's like they're movement doesn't necessarily match the direction of the blade, which I imagine has to be challenging and can sometimes look a little bit sloppy, but they're going for interesting forward moving choreography. Piper and Paul in the rhythm dance have kind of Halloween costume going on in terms of their styling with the Elton John. I have to say, overall, I thought that the flow from Piper and Paul was better than what we saw from Hubbell and Donohue. But Hubbell and Donohue did go for some interesting things. And one thing I wanted to point out is that they're taking advantage of the new overhead lift in ice dance where the rules—
I was going to ask you, I was like, it looks like a swan lift out of nowhere. So
the rule is that you cannot bend your elbow. The man cannot
straighten his elbow.
Got to straighten his elbows when he does it, and then it wouldn't count. It just feels very risky with knowing how ice dance panels go to take this risk for a team that is always between third and fourth at the big competitions. Meagan, what did you make of the difference between the two teams here?
Well, I think that, first of all, Hubbell and Donohue, they kind of need to go for it.
Yeah.
I think they need to. I think they need to stand out. And if they're going to be the only ones in that top group going for a lift of that difficulty, I think that they think the risk is worth it. Mm-hmm. And I have to agree. I think that they need it. I'm wonderful people, amazing people. I'm never really drawn into their skating on an emotional level too much, but I always appreciate what they do. I didn't really love Piper and Paul's short dance. Mm-hmm. I didn't love I didn't get the costumes. I didn't get it.
Well, it's just Elton John.
I was like, I know, but I was like, did Elton John wear neon orange?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I didn't know.
Here's my question to you guys. I was like, is it possible for anyone to have a quality rhythm dance? Like, I think it is not an enviable task. As I watch everything from the Russian test skates to Piper and Paul,
which were terrible in the ice dance, let's just say.
And I'm sorry, no. It could have been their thing, but everyone is so inherently awkward. I just refuse to believe a good one's possible.
That is a lie, because the audience was behind in the rhythm dance, everyone was talking about, which was like a little surprising to me, and we felt the buzz from last week, and I'm like, what is happening? There is such buzz behind Diana Davis doing the boom boom pow, which is hilarious to me because Annabelle Morozov is also doing boom boom pow. Diana, the daughter of a Terry, Annabelle, the daughter of Nikolai, her partner, Annabelle's partner, has a parent that works in the Russian Federation. There's a lot of politics going on all sides of this. You have Tiffany and Jonathan, his mother is a caller. So I
didn't know that. That's interesting. You taught me that.
She was the caller that tanked Hubbell and Donohue at that Four Continents stationary lift or whatever, because she said it moved. Yeah.
I'm going to point out something, and I feel like this needs to be discussed. The Turkish judge.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to call it Salt Lake City. It's always going to be Salt Lake City to me.
Boston now, yes.
So the Turkish judge in the short dance at Salt Lake City, or the rhythm dance, sorry, giving the higher components by a landslide to Diana and Gleb. Is that his name? Is that how I say it? Gleb. So this Turkish judge was banned in the past for his work with the Spanish dance teams at a Senior B international competition. This Turkish judge is now back judging and just made a huge that I feel like should cause an immediate suspension. They were so out of line. I don't care that in the free dance went the other way. I don't care. That was so obviously out of line, and it cannot be tolerated. Why do we tolerate that?
No.
Well,
this judge will be at Worlds, at the Olympics, at Europeans, and that should not be allowed.
I mean, the real thing is, think about how busy Eteri is right now, right? 6 ladies contenders, junior medalists, right? She came all the way here just for Trusova and Diana. And really, it seemed like she just brought Trusova as like a favor to US figure skating. Because remember, Nathan withdrew from this event. The crowd was pitiful. The fields were pitiful without Nathan participating, and some of the others, and the fact that the pair event just happened in New York last week. So we didn't have a paired field here. And Hubbell and Donohue, obviously, in the dance event highlighting, but outside of it, and with Nebelhorn a week from now, it was very strange. But you have to think that the politics is real happening, right, between Eteri and Igor. And it was hysterical because Spielbein had about 4 teams in a row in ice dance, all from different countries. And then you see the protocols happening and you just are like, okay, so this is why everyone is here. We're making nice. Terry was in a great mood this weekend, you know, acknowledging everyone. And it was just a really interesting opportunity. She just seemed very relaxed at the competition.
Well,
And
maybe
you
she
thought,
shouldn't have been. I don't think it helped Trusova.
well, that's a different thing that we'll get into, but Diana
But
did,
I just think
right?
that judge should not be allowed to judge.
I think Diana is
Go out of
going
line.
to the
They've
Olympics.
already been suspended once. Why are they allowed on the panel again?
I think that Tiffany and Jonathan are on notice, and I think Diana Davis and Boom Boom Pow are going to the Olympics. Even though Spielban pulls every choreographic trick that he does, it's typically when the girl is a weaker skater than the guy, all of a sudden the girl will be on the inside of the pattern, the guy will be on the outside. They do this with chalk and baits even now. You'll see that Evan will be on the outside and cover a lot more distance in front of the judges than Madison Chalk. It is a staple, and it was interesting to me. They have very clean elements, but maybe simpler elements and transitions. I don't love the Moulin Rouge, but people are behind Diana and Gleb. In the audience, they were really responding to her performance quality in the rhythm dance. So I
You
think
don't find the skating and the edges limited? Everything, especially in the free dance to that Moulin Rouge, so short and choppy. Did you just say choppy?
Yeah.
Yes, it was so like jerky compared to, again, whether often the material is a miss for me with Hubbell and Donohue, but the big grandiose skating and is so powerful and exciting that
And
then
the
to see
extension,
all this
finish.
scratchy, choppy little itty bitty stuff, I thought
You are
even
so-
compared to Tiffany.
you are so 2000 and late. People are behind Diana
Oh,
and Gleb.
oh, Dave is just on the train. He's
Yeah.
gone. He's not
Let me
coming
tell
back.
you, the Russian politics are in motion, okay?
I said
Look-
it after Worlds or Junior Worlds last year that Diana and Gleb would go to the Olympics.
They're
And
going.
I told my friend that, and he was like, "That's ridiculous." And I said, "You'll see."
It will happen. It is going to happen, okay? I think it, watch. It is, I think.
But it's interesting that you bring it up, Dave, because I think Tiffany and Jonathan sort of remind me of, although not as talented, but they remind me of being in the position of Caitlin and Jean-Luc, where they sort of solidified this third party, but it's clear like they've also sort of reached their ceiling. Yeah, so you do know that like the teams underneath will pass them, even though they've been consistently third. You know,
there's a push for Green and Parsons, and there's a push for Green and Parsons to maybe even make the Olympic team this year. Caitlin's been recovering from a knee injury. She wasn't at champs camp. I think there's a slower start perhaps in the Montreal. See, they withdrew from the Autumn Classic, certain teams to have more time to prepare. I think for a team like Papadakis and Cizeron, I don't think we're going to see them until they are at the very, very best.
They haven't competed in so long. I would be so scared. For me,
Wouldn't you be
I
scared?
needed competition, regular, to feel comfortable, to make the changes that were required. The fact that
Think
they have
about it.
competed in almost 2 years, like that's scary. It's scary.
Think about it, Terry spending all this time in the US. If I were Marie France, I would be sweating, because think about it. They have a joint interest where it could help them maybe with Hubbell and Donohue getting onto the bronze medal. If you go for Nikita and Victoria over the French, then you say, okay, we'll give Russia the three ladies. You give Nathan Chen the gold medal in the men's event. There's a lot of things that can happen here and a lot of deals and things that could be made. And I just think we see a Terry in Boston twice. We haven't even seen her show up to some senior Grand Prix before, okay?
Right.
She is coming to these events. There is a reason for it. They are smart as hell, and they are taking advantage of these opportunities. And I think that the US and Russia could have joint interests against like making sure that Piper and Paul don't get on the podium over Hubbell and Donohue, and making sure that maybe the French don't win. So I think that these are things that we need to really pay attention to during the Olympic season, because unusual.
Speaking of ice dance, because I did make a comment on how I didn't love Piper and Paul's short dance. I didn't understand. I felt like their lift was quite simple. I know that they used the lift again in the free dance. They have such amazing lifts. I'm not sure. I'm a little bit confused. Maybe somebody's injured. But I loved their free dance. I loved their costumes. I liked the music. I thought it was light. It was airy. It had a lot of flow. I was captivated by it. I was drawn in. So yeah, I just wanted to like make sure I said that so that my last note on them was not, I don't like.
Well, and my thing with Hubbell and Donohue also is what has always excited me about them is their power, strength, ice coverage, speed, and yet they always seem to fight their identity and try to be this like soft, reflective team. And I'm like, will you just go all out? Like gangbusters, like give me some big heavy music, be outrageously athletic, and then people will take it or leave it. But I think you stand to gain more ground than you would
just
lose.
being themselves.
Because I felt like Piper and Paul kind of beat them at their own game because they achieved the mood a little bit more naturally that wasn't quite achieved with Hubbell and Donohue.
Yeah.
You know, Hugo Chouinard was an angel boy with that music edit because it's quite a repetitive, kind of boring song that Hubbell and Donohue are skating, and he really tried to pull out and make it more interesting than it inherently is on the recording. So
he does really well with doing that.
Yeah.
But riddle me this, Dave, like if Madison and Zach were singers, do you think they would sound anything like the singer that was singing in their free dance?
No.
It was so like this, like, ha ha, I was like, that's not them. They're like a bomb, bomb, bomb.
You know, I
like,
bet she maybe could.
The music, they struggle with packaging and material. I think that at this point in time, it's just been, the skating is their strength, right? The other stuff tends to be where they struggle in every year in terms of music, costuming, things like that. This year, I think the music choice, it doesn't scream Olympic medal to me, but we'll have to see.
I think that we're going to see a lot of reworked programs in ice dance throughout the season, especially after seeing some of the dancers at the Russian test skate. I think people are going to go back to the drawing board with a couple of their pieces.
But I hope you're right, Meagan, and that they actually go back to the drawing board and don't try to tweak what's already there, because that is something we have seen. Maybe sometimes when Hubbell and Donohue knew they kind of should just start again, they've instead just tried to rework what was there. Yeah. And I was like, sometimes it was probably just going to be easier to just ditch it, try again. But
I agree.
I have to say that at Autumn Classic, just to say, Olivia Smart and Adria Diaz, we saw Sarah Hurtado a week ago. I think that Olivia and Adria seem to be ahead at this point. Interesting, the Mask of Zorro, maybe a more Spanish theme and homage for the Olympic season. But I thought overall, their look and their flow and their edge quality was a real step up.
I think their vehicles are just better as well than the other Spanish right now at this
point.
It's
not an injury, and that's something to point out, but they really struggle with their twizzles, but I think that they are solidly in front. Wanted to give a shout out to my coach, Igor Lukanen, who had the first and third place teams in the novice event at the US Classic. And my other coach, Roman, his boys were first and third at the event. So it was a big event for up and coming skaters at Boston. It was almost more exciting than the senior event. So, and Igor.
Good job. Good job, coaches.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to do a quick shout out now.
Yes.
To the first place junior dance team at the Russian Junior Grand Prix. They were, it's a Morozov program, and
those results.
Perhaps a problematic
I don't even want to
however, we have not seen his brand of choreography for a while. Do you know what I mean? And when I saw this team slick as hell, I would have given them PCS through the roof. I don't understand why it was higher. They were slick, they were finished, they were nuanced, they were detailed. I enjoyed that team so much. So that's all.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting. It was almost at times like watching Russian nationals because they had so many skaters in all of the events, which felt like a little bit unfair, but I understand why. Just like an unfortunate, if you're the skater that's your one junior Grand Prix you're assigned to and you're not from Russia. But I remember my first year on the junior Grand Prix, we had something like this where after 9/11, the US didn't send any skaters anywhere. So we got to send extra because of an event we had previously missed. There was supposed to be a junior Grand Prix in the US. And I remember 4 Canadian girls going, and not that 4 Canadian girls scared anybody the way that 5 Russians will, but it seemed a little bit like watching Russian nationals.
Well, and what's a further testament also to perhaps how lopsided all of these results will be after the French medal.
Yeah, junior Grand Prix comes in.
Yeah, both of them.
I don't know if they're going to even do a junior Grand Prix final. I don't think they are.
They unclear if they're going to add the two scores together.
Or just cancel it.
Yeah, I hope there's a junior Grand Prix final. We'll have to see. It's always exciting to watch the skaters really get that experience. Here, Akachiyeva setting a junior world record with that performance. She is the
I've never
Ontario
heard of
girl
her before. Have we seen her?
We have.
Yeah, but she's still not even eligible to be a senior anytime soon. Like that.
But I was like, wait a second, how have I missed this girl?
She's been doing that triple axel, triple toe for like a couple seasons
Like,
now. It's insane.
Beautiful triple axel, triple toe. That triple axel flies. It's explosive and light, and oh my gosh, it was amazing.
She is on the top of the Atari pyramid if there were one this week, because there are only Trusova and her. She outdid Trusova this week. That was an incredible performance. And I have to say, for the last couple of seasons, a lot of skating coaches are really behind Sergei Davidov in Russia. Sofia Samodelkina doing multiple quads here, especially the quadlets, really had a
gorgeous quad
breakthrough moment. Yeah. And the other, Blushenka, last year, a lot of people shading him. He is having a great junior Grand Prix season.
I wanted to say, he's got a lot of medalists, a lot of girls showing up looking ready and sharp. And I think it was the first junior Grand Prix where the Russians could go to. I forget where it was. But he had two girls there. I forget their names right now. Victoria.
Veronika Zilina.
Veronika.
Yeah.
With the quads, and then he had a little bit more of a lyrical skater. Yeah. Like I really liked the contrasting styles. And then now here with another skater, and yeah, he's having a really good junior Grand Prix season. I didn't know he had this many good younger girls.
Yeah, and there was something really endearing when she was really excited after the performance. She had done some great quads, and he was really happy for her. And I don't know, there was this like kind of genuine. There's much performative behavior going on in those kiss and cries, and this just seemed like a genuine moment where two people were happy and like sharing it, and I was like, oh, that was so needed. Yeah. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the ladies, because that was the big thing going on again. A field in the US and Canada that could have been combined. Wish that it would have been.
Poor Autumn Classic ladies field.
Poor US Classic ladies field. Yes, and men's field, and we'll get to that. Okay, the talk of the town in Boston, obviously Trusova, who practiced spectacularly. And it's funny because I was, Galina's on it. She's like, this is the girl that Russia is picking to win the Olympics.
I agree.
You film it, you tell me how she does, you tell me she's like, for her, this is not competition. This is bullshit. This is practice with costume, like this is like, she is like last week, for the test skates is when she had to perform. This is just another run through for her. It's not the same pressure. I don't know how you feel about that. And she was talking a lot about peaking, how, Vegas is when Trusova needs to be really on. And this is just a run through for her. I did think it was interesting, though, a couple of things about Trusova and watching her. She doesn't warm up a single spin in either the short or the free warm up, which is interesting. There's not really time in the free, but she doesn't get that feel of the ice in doing that, which I thought was interesting compared to the other ladies. Her spins have deteriorated compared to when she was a junior and first coming up, and her spins were really strong. You can see that that's just not a focus. And I don't know if the back issues or whatnot, but the jumps so strong. She, within 40 seconds, is doing a quad it's incredible when you're watching her practice, when you can time it and she's opening double axel, triple toe, like 20 seconds onto the warm-up ice. It was a clinic, but the actual performance, it seemed like she popped the quad toe and maybe her own mental psyche just like sank here. And
I have a question. As Meagan, you did these big wow elements, right? Like, and so
nothing like Trusova, but I
no,
did.
No. But like,
yes.
you were practicing the throw quadlots and like all these sorts of things. And I'm curious, in the case of her triple axel, the case of Trusova and the triple axel, like Dave, you put up that footage. She did 55 triple axels in a row. They were all pretty good. I'm intrigued by practicing smart or just practicing excessively, because I was like, clearly, whatever she has practiced in is the ability to do them nonstop, one after the other, but it's in different part of the ice than maybe she did it in the short program. It's like slightly different footwork going in. I was like, how would you advise for this big element that seems to be troubling her? Is this the right way to practice it? Because again, she also seems pretty mentally tough. You can't land 5 quads at a Russian test skate if you're not mentally tough.
Yeah.
So I'm curious where the disconnect is really happening.
I think for them, like repetition is not repetition, yes, but repetition on all these big elements is not something that I would endorse. But this is why those girls are as good as they are. Mm-hmm. It's not a magical technique. Mm-hmm. It's do it again, do it again, do it again. Pit them against each other, do it again together now. It's the pressure like this, and it's the repetition. And this is what makes them consistent, and this is what makes them good. So for her, that's where she gets her confidence, I think. But knowing that she can do all these elements, I think that she should expand less energy on warm-ups and on practice, and maybe just warm up a double axel and go for the triple in your program. I never warmed up a throw quad before a run through. Every time I did a run through, it was just a throw triple, and I made the adjustments I needed with the triple so then I would be confident for the quad. But doing these big elements takes a lot of, not just like physical effort, but energy. Like it takes a lot. So then in the long program, when all those quads are going off, like she's drained, she has no legs. She was going into those lutzes in the second half, and I was like, oh, I hope she triples. I hope she does a triple right now. But of course she doesn't, because she's Trusova, and that's why we love her.
Right.
And then she still managed to do one of those quad lutzes. But I understand why they do so much repetition, but I think that I would take a step back and gain some confidence and repetition from the easier form of the jump. She's executing the takeoff on a double and a triple axel the same. So she doesn't need to do 100 triples. She needs to do one triple that counts under pressure. And in order to do that, you need to do one like in the run through every day when you have that like little bit of pressure on you.
To me, her problem with the triple axel looks to stem from her pattern into the jump compared to her other quads, which are so easy. And this has been her kind of bugbear element that she really wants to get. But she goes very inside the circle on her axle instead of going forwards. And it does look like it gets her a little off axis, and it's a problem. She can do it, not as consistent as her other, ultra C elements, as they call them in Russia. Like
I know.
It's she's going inside the circle.
I think that she can also muscle a sow and a toe, like the quad sow and quad toe can be muscled. You can't really muscle an axle, not a triple axle.
So you're seeing her go across. Galina always calls it that you're doing flying camel instead of doing an axle. Like you're going inside,
rotation.
Yeah, going into the rotation instead of going straight. And sometimes her entrance edge is like a little flat, and like the shape of it, when you watch it, it doesn't look like it's set up for success as much as when you see her do the other jumps, you're like, that she's nailing it. So
I think if on practice, she's doing a lot of triple axles from different entries. They haven't found the one that works.
Yeah.
That's what it tells me. She's still in the trial and error process of finding the entrance that's going to work for her and give her confidence.
Okay. I do think she's one of the skaters where she could be like Alyona Savchenko at the Olympics, come back from, a really rough, a short program, maybe that's not the best if she misses the triple axel, and come back in the free and nail it and win. So I think that is something.
She still scored so high with didn't she do like 2 clean jumps in her free skate?
Yes.
The quad sow and the quad lutz triple toe were the only clean, and the double axel. They were the only clean jumping passes that she did in the free skate, I think.
At least the scoring there, she was pretty close to the Korean girl who was second. Yeah. And that I found interesting because I was afraid they could have still made a great deal of distance undeservedly so. Yeah.
Yeonjeong Park was a revelation at this event, especially in the practices. But for such a tiny skater, the height she gets on her jumps and the flow across the ice is so impressive.
I find it interesting how Korea sent ladies to both 2 separate events.
And she outscored Young Yu in the free by 20-something points. I mean, it was just such an outstanding effort. Not a huge, touted skater compared to Young Yu. Young Yu
hasn't been good for a while. She hasn't had some great performances for a little while.
Yeah. And Young Yu, at some of the internal Korean events last year was better than others, but still struggling with the consistent rotation, which a lot of the Tammy Gamble skaters, Audrey Shin, Karen Chen, Kanan Smith, Claire Seo, Young Yu, we're seeing a lot, especially on their sows, Karen on the Lutz. We see that they often
I
struggle.
think this is a Tom Z issue a little bit. Brady never had issues on under rotations, and now that's one of her biggest problems.
Yeah, I don't know exactly like who taught and who's responsible for what thing and what cooks were in the kitchen at some point, but
yeah,
interesting that Karen was good at Champs Camp, has been good at Worlds, getting into this point, and this is now something to come back from. I think that Karen can, but I think it shows you that the US ladies are in trouble. Brady was injured, only doing through triple loop at Champs Camp. Like all of a sudden you're like, who's going for the US ladies? What's happening?
Alyssa seems to be the only solid person that seems to be eyeing that team spot.
I'm still holding out hope for Mariah Bell. Like I'm still holding out hope, but I think that that's dwindling fast, but I'm still got a little bit.
You're burning those candles. You're the one.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. She's not as dead as my plant yet to me. So there's still a chance. There's no chance for this guy anymore, but there's still a chance for her.
Okay.
I think Mitch Moyer is hoping that the next 2 months that things turn around and that things are,
for everyone. We want a depth, the depth to be there in that competition. And right now it's sort of like, all right, I guess who we gonna send outside of Alyssa, who really I admire for really making her case sort of an easy to understand choice that one should send her.
Other things I would just point out from seeing it in person, Sierra Veneta is one of the loveliest skaters. She has such a lovely back and upper carriage. On her toe, she does a little bit of the Amber Corwin pre-rotation.
All the way back.
Yes, all the way back, looking like we're checking the car out of the garage, but a lovely skater. I wish that she would just not wear gray. You talked about costumes for the free. I think it's just like a muted color. Tyler Cranston in his book was very anti-gray.
I love gray on the ice. See, this is like what's so amazing about different opinions.
But I really like Sierra, and I was really rooting for her. To me, Gabby Izzo is a really gritty skater. Now, she's using her old Mark Mitchell programs. And while Mark, I think, has good music choices, sometimes they're a little slightly dated. To me, there's something about a girl in dark hair, severe heavy makeup, skating to Glenn Close, Sunset Boulevard, that just feels very aging on the ice, like it's
it's literally the subject matter of the show.
Yeah, right?
That it's an old woman trying to like keep her hooks in. Yeah,
but Gabby Izzo just gives the energy on the ice. Like she was going to get that medal here, and it was impressive because I know that she had been injured and she was up for Skate America, then didn't get the spot, had a really rough Champs Camp, and came back here. And
where do you get your news on Champs Camp from?
Oh, Meagan, the USFS.
Tell me your secrets.
They didn't block it on Live Barn, so we could watch the whole thing. Yeah,
no way, you watched it all.
Yes, until the last.
Now, is what you guys do in Canada also closed to the public, Meagan, or is it public?
I mean, yeah, like closed to the public. Like people come in. Like if your parents, you can come in, or friends, or.
But it's not like Russian test skates where it's like let's have an.
No, we did it once public, and I thought it was great. It was so nice to have an audience. But a lot of people complained that we're really bad in September, and I'm like, who cares?
Russia does it in front. I think
they might see me skate bad in January. I don't care.
I think it would help. I think it would help them all mentally at this point. Why are we secret if the Russians are building momentum for the season? It might be exciting.
It's like a competition.
Yeah, everyone wants to be excited.
The ice dance event at the Russian test skates were terrible. People were like leaving out elements and everything in ice dance, but they showed up, they went for it, and they had a full audience.
Yeah.
And they're that much closer now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of the secrecy at this point, other than it's what's always been done. But I think I
don't even understand why there ever was. Who cares? You compete in August and people see you. You're going to compete in October and people see you. Who cares what you do in between?
Yeah.
If it sucks, it sucks.
It's just, I think it would add another mental notch in your belt of experience and preparation. So, but other people may have different opinions.
No.
So.
Bruno's just came out. He was like, "Are you still recording?"
We almost. One thing, Meagan, is that we were watching the men here. I have to say. Also, props to Marlena from Cyprus, who isn't going to Nebelhorn, but should be going to Nebelhorn with this performance. But both
Do you
girls.
think they have time to change the entries, and this week she can get to Germany?
They're both so strong from Cyprus. I wish they could get 2 spots at Nebelhorn, but I am so excited to see which skaters are going to get it. It's so close in some of these events. But I have to say, in the men's event here, the one thing is that you pointed out when we were discussing Nathan about how he puts his elements in the same spot on the ice. And it was interesting watching.
And now you've realized everybody does it.
Everyone was doing it here. Jimmy Ma did a quad toe, circled back on the ice, second quad toe, same spot. Daniel Samoan did both axles and his quad sow in the same spot on the ice, did both Lutzes and his flip in the same spot on the other end of the ice, never went to the right-hand side of the rink.
And you know what's funny? When I was like in pre-juvenile, my coach was like, okay, we did a Lutz down there. We can't do another jump on that spot. Like, I remember composition conversations like this when I was in pre-juvenile, but now at like the elitist of levels, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And as a
It's a thing of the
judge, I'm not
past.
too sure notice because composition scores are still really high.
Yeah. I don't know. Trusova got an 8.5 for transitions by someone. It was ridiculous. I didn't see many in that program.
No, and I love her, but I didn't see very many. No.
But yeah, the men's event, Donovan Carrillo had a really hard fall. He's got the Ricky Martin program, a big fan favorite. Also, Chris Kaluza has been skating in Boston. Like
He was in Alaska for a while too.
yeah, and he was like praying, like he looked really nervous before he went out, and then he has like these moments, both of competitions in front of the crowd. Interesting. The Mikhail Breshna Brian Adams program is such a guilty pleasure for me that I really love it. But the edit is all off, and he was.
But it has those like, you know what it is, Dave? Like just fangirling out like those like mid 90s Stars on Ice tour. Like he's so perfect for it. He's
But
like,
he's kind of like a 90s style of skater.
yes, it's
works.
a throwback. It's a total throwback. And when he gets that quad out, like in the short, it was very exciting.
Yeah.
But you know, again, it's always like there's something classic about it, even though again it's Brian Adams. But
also, Maxim Naumov shows a glimmer of being able to be hope for the future of U.S. figure skating. Had a rough free skate here compared missing the podium, but.
And remember when the U.S. Classic used to be in Salt Lake City, we blamed a lot of those programs on altitude in the free skate. It was always like, oh yeah, they're at altitude. Oh yeah, they're at altitude. I remember the Paris competitions there.
Yes.
I think now we're seeing all these skaters non-altitude with similarly struggling performances. I don't know if it was altitude all those years in Salt Lake City.
turns out, yeah, exactly.
Well,
Not so sure.
How much did your own training, or did you witness other skaters ramp up the training after a rough outing in August or at Champs Camp, and then at the going into the Grand Prix? How much are the skaters going to be turning up a notch over there?
I think it could wake people up. I think that sometimes they have completely different expectations than what the reality is. So sometimes reality brings them down, or maybe that they just didn't have a great skate, but they still have the potential to grow. So I think that it will wake you up one way or the other. I think some people with their scores after this weekend or after the events throughout the season are going to be like, oh, maybe what I thought is just not going to happen. It's not possible this year. Or some of them are like, wow, look I wasn't that great, but I still scored well. So I'm going in the right direction.
If you're Conrad Orzel and you threw down a short program like that, I don't know, I'd be pretty inspired to keep working. Do you know what I mean? Obviously the free wasn't as strong as the short was, but that short was so solid. I was like, oh, kind of making a moment.
I really like his skating. I wish that he was managed a little bit differently in terms of music and choreography. I think we haven't been able, whoever's working with them hasn't been able to bring out his best on that side yet.
It was a bit generic, like the sort of approach to the free.
I think that there's got to be something more to him and his personality. I don't know him personally, but there's got to be something more that the coach and the choreographer could draw out. And that's what I would like to see from him. But I mean, amazing skater, amazing skills. And that was a really great short program.
Yeah,
and
it was nice to see.
Earned his spot at Skate Canada, which he was given.
Yeah, I think a big shift now, I think with Nebelhorn and some of these events coming up, but I think all eyes are on this Grand Prix is thinking, how are Vanessa and Eric going to do?
Oh, Finlandia has a crazy field. Have you seen the entry lists for Finlandia? Like in the pairs event, they have Machina and Galimilov, they have Boykova, they have Jessica and Brian, they have Ashley and Timothy, they have Kirsten and Mike, they have Eric and Vanessa, and then a bunch of other European pairs. Like that's a crazy pairs event that's going to happen.
Do you expect teams to withdraw from Finlandia at this point?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
I'd be so hungry to compete after all this
I'm not
time.
so sure. Unless Ashley is really not well.
Mhm.
Other than
Eric,
that, I don't think
do you think Vanessa and Eric need to train more or compete more at this point?
both.
Okay. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you add up the points, and that's what Eric and I used to do. So like at Autumn Classic, when I fell like a million times or whatever, that bad skate, and we got 120 something. It's like, okay, well, both jumps, that was about 10 points. Then we had the throw quad, that was another 4 points. Then you have the throw lutz, that was another 3 points that I lost. Okay, so we could be between 145 and 150 if we skate this program clean. You just have to look, like, you add up those points and you see, is the score going to add up to what you thought was going to happen? Or are you setting your sights a little bit too high? But I think Eric and Vanessa need to train more and they need to compete more. They went to a show last week in Europe for their debut in the international scene.
Yeah, and they were at a wedding, which
were they not taking it that seriously? Maybe did they not expect the Japanese to be this good? Maybe, or are they just going along for the ride? Maybe.
Are they trying to pace? I don't know. You're older.
Eric and I used to do a lot of shows in between competitions. After our terrible Autumn Classic, the year of the Olympics, we went to Italy for almost 3 weeks to do opera on ice, and then came back and won Skate Canada with a clean long program. So when we were in Italy, we were driving every single day to Bergamo, where Valentina and Andre were training, and we were doing our run-throughs there every morning. Then we would drive back to Verona and get ready for the show and do the evening performances. So we were able to do it, but we were also a team that had a lot more mileage together. And like at different parts, we weren't a brand new team.
So what were your moment of the week this week of all the different events?
We didn't talk like that much. We talked about his Brian Adams program, sorry, but I didn't see much about Mikhail. I mean, I find him such an endearing skater. I really want him to do well. And I know he's been up and down and all over the place. And I remember when he was 4th in the world, and I thought he was going to be, the next best thing in men's skating. And just when I see him do well, I always feel like I'm always rooting for him. So to see him have a good competition, I know his long wasn't great, but to see him have a good competition under his belt and get some good scores in his final season, I'm always rooting for him. I really love Piper and Paul's free dance as well, but my moment of the week was definitely Riku and Ryuichi in the Paris event at Autumn Classic with their big, massive, overwhelming win.
How about you, Jonathan?
It's so weird, and I should probably watch it again before I just start saying this, because it didn't even win the free dance. But I'm going to say Irina and Dario, the junior Russian team that won the junior Grand Prix, but were ultimately second in the rhythm dance. I was just so floored by it. I just was so entertained in an energetic, sharp way that I haven't been from a lot of free dances in a really long time. So it was just kind of fun to see.
I have to say, it was very cool to see Jimmy Moss skate well after he did last time. Props to that, building momentum there. But overall, I have to say, watching Trusova practice, obviously honorable mention with the Japanese doing so well at the Autumn Classic, but I wasn't there in person. So to see Trusova practice in person, and especially the warm up for the free, which I'll link to in the end screen, was so impressive that it was just very exciting and disappointing that she didn't do it in the actual competition, but
she is my pick for Olympic gold this season. I think that she will nail enough content to be the Olympic champion this year. That's my pick.
You know what? I think it's disguised. I don't think the other Russian ladies looked as strong as usual, but there are so many of them that it was so impressive as like a collective. But I think that it was a little bit, I don't think skater for skater, they looked maybe as good as they did in the past. And I think that she looks stronger than ever.
I think she physically looks stronger.
Yes.
Like I look at her, I'm like, oh, like she's a strong lady. Like or woman. She's a strong woman. Sorry. But yeah, I looked at her and I was like, she has been putting in some good training. Yeah. You can see like physically she's fit and she's strong.
And the quads are more exciting looking than they've ever been. So leggy, so much more height, so much more distance.
And I like her long program music.
It works for her.
It was a good movie. It was a good movie.
I didn't see the movie yet, but
okay, you should. It's very
Donohue
good.
has seen it. Oh my goodness!
I like
All
that.
right, hold it, edge and look sexy, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.